So the agenda for this webinar, I'm going to talk about the layers of the operating system. So we call Zoho One the operating system for business. I will explain what each of the three core layers is all about. And then I'm really going to focus on the platform layer, which is basically the technology that underlies Zoho One and allows you to customize Zoho One to fit your business. So this webinar, while I won't be giving you like a hands-on demo, it does get kind of technical. So if that's not what you signed up for, you can go back to our webinars page. We have other webinars that are more like high-level overviews that are a bit less technical. So this webinar is going to be most useful for you if you are like someone who works in IT, or you're a Zoho partner, or if you're just a business owner who maybe you won't understand all of the technical stuff, but you want to be able to get an idea of how much can I customize this thing for my business. If you are in any of those positions, I think this webinar will be most useful for you. All right, so Zoho One is the operating system for business. And the way that we see the operating system, there's three layers. And so that's what I want to talk about first. So the topmost layer, if you've been using Zoho One, is probably what you're most familiar with, which is the apps. So that's what you're actually interacting with. So Zoho One gives you 45 integrated applications. They're all built to work together. But that's not really what I want to focus this webinar on, because Zoho One, obviously the apps are very important and we do have a lot of resources about them, but it's not just about the apps, and it's not just an app store of just like all of these, disparate, disconnected things that we're just giving you for a lower price. So the way we see it, the apps are just one part of the puzzle, and actually there's a much larger like structure at work which allows Zoho One to operate as something that's like an operating system where all of these different pieces can work together. And what that gives you as a business owner is just a much more efficient way to set up processes, structure processes that touch multiple departments, or move information from point A to point B and make sure that there just aren't any hiccups along the way. So the second layer is the services. And so this is where you can really start to see what we mean by the idea of Zoho One as an operating system. So besides just all these different applications, we have some services that are kind of like built into Zoho One that work across the board. So a few examples could be like artificial intelligence. You may have heard about Zia, which is our Zoho Intelligent Assistant. We have business intelligence, so Zoho Analytics is built in across the Zoho One operating system. And there's a bunch of other examples I could give you of services, but I figured it would be better to just kind of explain one or two of them more in depth. So this is showing you the analytics service that's built into Zoho One. So when you log into that Zoho One home screen, as an administrator or a business owner, you can actually have a bunch of analytics show up right there. And one cool example of this is the executive dashboard, which actually pulls information in from a bunch of different applications and displays it all in one view. So this is a screenshot showing you the executive dashboard, and we can see up at the top, there's some key stats like revenue this quarter, whether that's higher or lower than last quarter, our marketing expenses, our customer satisfaction rate, and then we have some other charts here. So we can see like a sales pipeline, we can see like the ticket volume in our help desk software. And so really this gives you or revenue and expenses by month, right? So what this gives you a sense of is that we're pulling in information from all these different areas. We have sales information, marketing information, support, because we have a finance suite, which is part of Zoho One, that all gets pulled in. And the beauty of the analytics service is that because all of these things are built by Zoho, and so we understand their data structure very well, we can create these dashboards for you automatically, but we also give you the ability to build your own. So another example of a service is messaging that's built in across the board. So pretty much whenever you're using a Zoho application, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat bar. And so that is actually our messaging service, which is powered by Zoho Click, which is part of Zoho One. So Zoho Click, lets you quickly, if you're working from CRM or your email or you're, in Zoho projects, managing a project, whenever you need to just quickly get in touch with somebody and clear something up, you can go down to the bottom and start a chat with somebody. And then what's cool about Click is that besides just being this chat bar that's at the bottom of all your screens, it also comes with built-in features like audio calling, video calling, screen sharing, and it exists as a standalone application. So this screenshot shows you Click as a standalone application. And so the way that Zoho One is evolving is that more and more of our applications, which started out as just an individual application sold separately from all the others, are becoming an application that's more like a service. So Zoho Click, it starts out as a standalone thing, but it's then built into all of these other Zoho apps. And so you contextually just have this way to kind of access a little micro version of Click whenever you need it. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about services in Zoho One. They're like these little things that are just built in all of the little places where you would want to find them that just make your life easier. And one of the great things about something like Click is that because we have like audio and video calling built in, and we're now connecting it with PhoneBridge where you can connect it to like a PBX phone system, is that now you can literally just answer a call whenever you have a Zoho window open in your browser. And you can see information pulled in from other Zoho systems about who is calling you too. So whether it's just somebody internally calling you through Click, like another person at your business, or whether it's a customer who's calling you and you want to see some information about them, all of that stuff gets built into the Click service and then it exists everywhere. So that's pretty cool. All right, so then the structure of the operating system really begins with the platform. And so that's what this webinar is really going to focus on. And the platform is really like the technology underneath all of these apps and services that's powering everything and making everything in Zoho One possible. Okay, so let's take a bit of a deeper dive into the platform. So I guess the first question to answer when we're talking about the platform is what makes a strong technology platform? And there's a few different ways that we can answer this. So I think the first answer, perhaps the most important answer, is that every business is unique. It has its own way of running its processes. And so you need a platform that can also be unique the way that your business is. So you don't want to have the experience of investing all this money and time to get some software running for your business and get it all implemented, and then find out that you're constantly having to change the way that you do things just to fit the structure of how that software wants you to do it. So we've tried to build the entire Zoho One operating system so that you're never forced into a situation like that. So obviously we have to make some assumptions about how a business is using an accounting software or how somebody might structure their sales process, but we give you a lot of control over how you want these processes to work. So we kind of set things up for you, but then allow you to take it from there and customize it. And that's what is the first key to a strong platform. So to give you a few examples of how you can customize things in the Zoho One operating system, let's take a look at that app layer first. So you want your apps to be able to not be so rigid, to be able to be flexible enough to fit with your business process. So one example of that, this is a screenshot from CRM where a lot of people are using this to structure their sales process and all of the information that they're storing about their customers. So this screenshot is showing you how you can take one of those customer records, and you can just customize the CRM. So that way you don't have to use whatever our default fields are. You can structure that database in a way that's going to make sense for you. So whether you're doing like auto sales or insurance sales, you might have two very different requirements of what information you need to gather on people. And the CRM is built in such a way that you can customize it to collect exactly what you need. But then besides just controlling what information you want to collect, you can also control how you represent that information in the CRM. So this is showing you, maybe you have some kind of like car dealership CRM. You can actually come in and we have a feature where you can customize like how you want to present all this data and just put whatever key facts are going to matter for your business right up front when you're looking through that database. So another way to customize something like a CRM is that you can customize the functionality of it too. So besides just what information am I collecting, how am I representing that information, we also have two things which are built into a lot of Zoho products, which you'll hear again and again if you're digging through those setting menus. So one is workflows, and the other one is custom functions. So a workflow is basically just a way to automate something without having to write any code. So that's kind of like the easy version of automation. And then if you want to go and take it extra far, then you would use something called a custom function. And so a custom function, whenever you hear that word, that's referring to Deluge script, which is a scripting language which is built into most Zoho applications. And basically, it's a proprietary language which allows you to do very detailed types of automation to integrate things. And there's a bunch of nice things about using Deluge script that just make it really, really powerful. So one, if you are a developer, you can write get and post API calls. So if you want to integrate with some other cloud service, which we don't have some kind of like out of the box integration with, that's really nice to know about. It's a low code scripting language, so it is pretty easy to use, especially if you have experience as a programmer. If you don't have experience as a programmer, that learning curve, it's going to feel pretty high for you. So fortunately, we do have a big network of partners that you can look into for getting some custom code written in one of your Zoho applications. And so, one example of like one of the things that Deluge can do that just makes your life really easy is that we have like a built-in task for sending emails, which is super, super simple. You just can drag it on using our syntax builder. So when you're first getting started, you don't even have to remember exactly how we structure all the syntax, because we kind of give you these drag and drop things, and then you just fill in the blanks. And we integrate with a bunch of stuff, whether it's Zoho apps or the ability to send an email or send a text message, all that stuff is there. Okay, so Deluge custom functions, they don't exist in every Zoho app, but they do exist in quite a few of them, and pretty much any app where you could think of you would ever want the ability to write a custom script will have it. And so those custom scripts can do things like add in a button to one of your applications that just does something specific to you every time it gets clicked. Or, they could operate behind the scenes. So every time something gets updated a certain way, maybe that triggers some kind of automation, or you could do scheduled scripts too. But another way that you can use these is there's a application that is part of the Zoho One suite called Zoho Creator, which allows you to very quickly build and deploy cloud applications. So when you build an application in Zoho Creator, you can deploy it on tablets, on phones, on your desktop browser, on Android, on iOS, and you just build it one time and it's automatically ready across all of those platforms. And so you can do some amount of creator application building without having to know any Deluge, but you'll be able to take it a lot further if you have some Deluge experience. So another really cool thing about Zoho Creator is that when you build one of these custom cloud applications, you can deploy it in the same place where all of your other Zoho apps are listed. So when you or one of the users in your business logs on to their Zoho One homepage and they see all of their apps listed there, you can have some kind of custom application show up right along with all those other applications. And one of the things that we also added recently, which I just want to point out here, is that you can also use the same space to integrate in other third-party applications using single sign-on. So for instance, if you're using Zoho One and for some reason you just don't want to use Zoho Mail, you want to stick with like your G Suite and your Google Mail, you can actually just set up single sign-on. So you just sign into your Zoho account and then you can have Gmail listed next to all your Zoho apps. And when you click on Gmail from there, it'll automatically sign you in using your Zoho login. And you won't have to, have that thing where you have all these different passwords that you have to remember and reset all of the time. So that's pretty cool. Zoho Creator applications, by the way, sometimes I talk about this and people go, oh, wow, like I can build anything with this. Like I could make the next Candy Crush. I could make the next Twitter. And it's like, well, creator applications are really structured to be used in a particular kind of way. And so the assumption of a creator app is that you're building something for a business. Usually it's very database focused. So if you need like a custom database for your business, and then you want to also add on, a whole set of views on top of that and custom permission structures and some automation, then you can do all of that in Creator. And the beauty of something like that is that, in the old days, to get a custom app built, especially a custom cloud app, this would cost a business millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars to have that done. So with Zoho Creator, because we abstract away a bunch of elements, like the interface is usually made up of kind of like pre-made modules, or the scripting language is all done through our low-code scripting language, or the security is just completely taken care of for you. All that means is that if you want to have a custom application built, you can develop it much faster and much, much less expensive than if you were using like traditional programming methods. Okay, so now let's take a look at some of those services and how those can also shapeshift to fit your business. So each of our core services that's a part of Zoho One also has a developer tool, which allows you to take it and do something more than just what it does out of the box. So with the Zia Intelligent Assistant, we have a Zia Skill Builder, which allows you to basically do the kind of thing that people do with like the Amazon Alexa, where you can install different skills. That's basically all that means. You can build your own skills specifically for your instance of Zia, and then you'll be able to talk to Zia and use them whenever you're, chatting with Zia, talking to Zia using Zia Voice. Those dashboards, like I was showing you earlier, we give you a bunch of those pre-made out of the box because we kind of know what most businesses are looking for, but also you can go in, customize those yourself. And then we have things like Phone Bridge or the search extender, which we can talk about a little bit more later. So the Zia Assistant, in case you're not familiar with what that looks like, this is just a little video which shows like from the CRM, there's this little button at the bottom which says Ask Zia, and you can just write in, some information that you're looking for, or you can tell Zia, update this lead or tell me something about this lead. And it's just using a natural language processor to figure out what you're looking for. So that's what Zia can do by default, but then you can use the skill builder to kind of take that a step further. So if you want like a customized daily report of things that matter specifically to you or that are unique because of the way you've customized your CRM, then you can build that as a Zia skill. Another way that the Zia skill builder can be really useful, so let's say you have a big sales team and maybe you have some kind of like scripted sales situation, you can use Zia as just kind of like this resource for all of your sales reps. So whether you're trying to onboard them or you just want to have a set of like frequently asked questions that customers might have that your sales reps might not know off the top of their head, because maybe it's just, like some really specific information that they have to memorize and there's a lot of it, then you could just set it up so Zia can answer those things through like a quick chat. And so when your sales rep is talking to a customer, they could very quickly look that information up. So there's all kinds of things you can do with it. That's just a few examples to kind of give you an idea of the extent that you can take this thing to. So this is a screenshot showing the Zia skill builder. This is a way that you can customize Zia for your business, and that is all done through Deluge. All right, so here's another quick video example. This is showing the dashboard builder inside Zoho Analytics. So in this example, it's just showing you there's a bunch of reports or charts that were already built and put together. And if you want to build a custom dashboard, you can just drag them all on, resize them, and kind of order them however you would want to look at them. But you can also build those charts yourself too. So that's pretty cool to know about. And then there's also, besides just the Zia like artificial intelligence, there's a couple other types of bots that you can build with your Zoho account. So one is click bots. Click bots are built into that messaging tool, and they're really meant for like internal use. So they could do things like, update your calendar or just fill in some form in an application for you in kind of a conversational way. And so what they are useful for is kind of like lowering the barrier to entry of like, where do I find this information? Where do I go to update this? You just give somebody a bot that can kind of take care of that stuff more easily. But we also have Sales IQ bots, which go on your website and are basically meant for your customers to see. So Sales IQ allows you to put like a live chat tool on your website. You can have live people answering those chats, but you can also set it up so there's a bot on the other end. And that bot could maybe like ask people some like qualifying questions and then transfer them to a live person. Or, it could just ask people a set of things and then maybe add them to your CRM or set up a, add something to your schedule. Like if you want to have a bot that can book consultations instead of having a live person sitting around a phone 24 hours a day. That's a way that bots can be really useful for you. So all that stuff can be customized and built. This is showing you the Sales IQ bot builder, which can actually be built several different ways. One way is with Deluge script, but we also give you a couple other options based on like other bot building platforms. Okay. And then the last part of this is you want the platform itself to be able to shapeshift. So all of the like customization technology that goes into Zoho One, we just make available to users or developers who want to kind of like take things further. So, we give you 40 plus applications that are kind of pre-set up for you, but then we also give you Zoho Creator to build your own applications. We give you a bunch of pre-made integrations between all of our applications, but sometimes those don't cover every business's needs. So for something like that, we have Zoho Flow, which allows you to build your own integrations. And that includes both Zoho and third-party applications. For like doing a custom process, we have a tool called Orchestly, and then we also have added Sigma and Catalyst recently. So Sigma is for building like extensions, and I'll talk about these each a little bit more, and then Catalyst is for doing serverless services. Say that 5 times fast. And Catalyst is the newest addition here. So here's a screenshot showing you Orchestly. So with Orchestly, you can set up a custom process. Here's like a little diagram that shows you basically visually how a certain process is going to work. So with Orchestly, you drag things on to this kind of like flowchart builder, and you just use it to like structure a complex process that may involve, a bunch of different steps or touch a bunch of different people. And basically what Orchesley does is it just lets you keep track of how your process works, but also it lets you see how efficiently a process is running, and it's just passing notifications along as that process is happening. So basically, I can set up a process, and once person A completes the thing they have to do, it gets passed to person B and then to person C, and I can set up Orchesley to just automatically send out like a text message or an email, so that way as soon as person B can start their step in the process, they know that it's now available for them to start. So if you find yourself in situations where you just don't have a lot of like visibility into a process, or you don't have ways to track like who is accountable when things go wrong, or you find that there's a process in your business where things are really getting like hung up, where somebody's just not doing work that they could be doing because they just don't even know that they can. These are all indications that like Orchesley could be really useful for you. So Orchesley is really set up for doing no code automation. However, you can take it a step further, but because it's kind of a newer application, we don't really have like a good workflow thing built into it. And so what I mean by that is if you want to like structure an Orchesley process so it's automating an action in an application, then it's pretty much all done through Deluge right now. In the future, you'll see more and more of that Deluge get kind of abstracted away, where you'll have a lot more options to do things without having to write code. But for now, basically, you build the process yourself. It doesn't take any coding. If you want to automate something in an app or update information automatically in an app, that's when you would move over to Deluge. So we have Zoho Creator. We already talked about that a bit. I think I kind of covered all of these key points. The apps are very like database centric. Don't think we need to spend a ton of time there. Okay, so this is Zoho Flow. This is the integration builder. And so you may be thinking, hey, Flow looks a lot like Orchesley. Where do these overlap? What's the difference between these? So Flow is meant to be a no-code or low-code integration builder. So if you want to automate something such that, when an event happens in one application, it pushes some update in another application, that's when you would use Zoho Flow. Orchesley is more for managing the people side of the process, where, when person A does something, I want to notify person B. That's more of an Orchesley scenario. That being said, sometimes there are cases where you could build a similar thing in Flow or Orchesley, but you can kind of just think of it at a high level as, okay, if I'm trying to like automate some process or structure some process, rather involving people, that's an Orchesley thing. If I want to structure some process and push data around applications, that's more of a Flow thing. So if you are a developer, one of the cool things to know about Flow is that you can still kind of use this in a technical way, where you can have like a webhook trigger a flow. And so you can kind of like build an integration a little bit faster than completely doing it from scratch, by doing some of the steps in no code, and then maybe you have some like custom software that you've written that can like send an API call to Flow to trigger all of that. Also, you can write functions in flows. So you can write a custom deluge function, which will manipulate some information or process some data as you're moving it from application to application, which sometimes is necessary because, you might have one application which structures dates and times a certain way, and another application that has a different formatting, and you have to actually like write a little bit of code to account for that. So we do give you some of those like higher level options, but also if you're a business owner, a lot of like pretty simple flows you can just build yourself. It's not going to require Deluge. It's not going to require any technical expertise. Okay, so we also have a tool called Sigma. So Sigma is for building extensions for Zoho applications. So an example would be like, say you have a CRM that's all about real estate sales, excuse me. In a situation like that, you may enter in some information about the property and want to pull up some data from something like Zillow. So that could be an extension where you build something that literally shows up inside a Zoho application window. That's what we call an extension. So extensions are very contextual. They're always like kind of an in-app customization or a custom interface sort of thing. Another example, somebody made like a Google Maps widget that goes with Zoho Mail. So if you're always like looking up addresses and pasting them into emails, kind of makes that process a little bit easier. So you can have like maps open on the right-hand side and copy and paste between the two. So if you want to develop something like that with Sigma, if you're a developer, it's nice to know that you can sell those on the marketplace, or you can make them free on the Zoho marketplace. You can also just keep them private, so you could build one that's just for your company. And in the case of Sigma, you can actually do development without using Deluge. So the interface is done in HTML and CSS. You use JavaScript for some of the more advanced stuff, or you can also use Deluge to integrate with the Zoho applications. You can connect in third-party services. That's what most extensions are doing, and we support OAuth 2.0. Okay, and then the newest one, the newest part of the platform, which allows you to really go far with your customizations, is called Catalyst. So Catalyst is basically a AWS or Azure competitor, but in our opinion, even cooler than AWS. And that's because kind of the cutting edge of Catalyst is that we give you tons and tons of business tested services that you can use out of the box. So first off, a couple cool things about this. One, if you're using Catalyst, it gives you functions as a service, but also the backend as a service. So you can deal with like file storage or running functions. You can develop in Java, Node.js, or Python. We're going to be adding more languages in the future, but at launch, that's what we support. And really the cool thing here about Catalyst is that we have all these microservices that Zoho has been using in its own cloud applications, and so they're very tried and true, and they're just super cool and easy to develop with. So we have like a built-in anomaly detection engine. We have like a built-in thing for doing document previews, which supports like an insane amount of file types. I think it's like over 100 or over 200 or something. We have a built-in charting service, a data cleansing service. If you want to clean up a bunch of messy data before importing it into an application, that's all stuff that can be done. And we're adding more and more AI microservices as well, like object recognition, and those kinds of things are coming also. And so the basic idea of Catalyst, probably should have said this first, is that it's like a serverless development tool. And so you can focus on just writing some code and deploying that code, and you don't have to worry about the servers, the scalability, all of those different kinds of concerns, and you don't have to worry about paying too much for it, because basically you just are billed for usage, right? So you're billed based on how often your code is running, how much processing power it's using. Okay, so if you didn't know how far the Zoho One operating system could be customized, hopefully at this point you have realized that pretty much anything you want to do, you'll be able to do it because we give you so many different customization tools. Okay, so the other part of what makes a platform strong, other than the ability to control it and customize it to fit my business, is you want your platform to be really trustworthy, right? if we're going to take all the time to invest in paying for Zoho One, and we're going to trust that Zoho can keep all of my business data and won't fail or go down or whatever, you need to know that you can trust it. And so besides just the apps, the services, and the technology platform, one of the points I want to make is that at Zoho, we actually build the entire stack of our cloud infrastructure in-house. So what that means for you as a business owner is basically that everything is optimized for you, right? So besides just, having all of these cool apps and services and then being able to customize all of them, it's nice to know that all of our data centers, all of our hardware, all of these things, Zoho actually does ourselves. And that's actually not very common these days. So a lot of cloud vendors out there are using things like AWS or Microsoft Azure, and basically they're only worrying about maybe like this top layer. Some companies are kind of doing like, some things that are like services, but no company out there is really doing 40 different cloud applications, built all of them in-house, no acquisitions, and is running all of their data centers. There's pretty much no one out there doing this. And that can matter because basically what that means is if you're going with another cloud vendor and they are paying someone else to do their data center stuff, or they're paying someone else to do the database, which is actually storing all the information in your application, that means that the price tag that you're paying isn't just dependent on that one company. So if AWS suddenly decides to raise the prices because they have destroyed all their competition or something like that, then what that means is, that could be passed along to you, and there's really like nothing that company can really do about it. They're beholden to paying another vendor for all of that hardware stuff. So at Zoho, we do it all in-house. And one example of how this is already saving you money is if you know about ZS Search, which is like our universal search, which allows you to search through a bunch of your Zoho apps all in one interface, takes a lot of processing power to run something like that. And so we did an experiment and we said, okay, how much would these different cloud vendors like Google or Microsoft or Amazon charge us to run this for a year on their service, which is how most cloud companies would do it these days. We calculated that would cost us about $10 million a year. But because we're doing it all in-house and we run our own data centers, we're only actually paying $1 million a year to run that service. So, that's the scale of how much money that Zoho is able to save by doing everything on its own terms, and we pass a lot of that savings along to our customers. Which is part of the reason why Zoho costs a lot less than most of the competition. So another thing that makes Zoho really trustworthy, we don't have investors, so we're a privately held company, and really what that means is we just focus everything on bringing as much value to our customers as possible, because there's not really any other party that matters here. So we're not trying to please our shareholders by squeezing every penny that we can get out of our customers. We're really just trying to win as many customers as we can and keep them as happy as we can. So Zoho is never going to go public. The company is privately held and it's been bootstrapped its entire existence. And so the CEO of Zoho is a man named Sridhar Vembu, and he is like the founder and CEO of Zoho. And he said, basically, as long as I live, I will never sell the company. I will never go public. So you don't have to worry about that. Also, Zoho doesn't believe in acquisitions. So all of our applications are built in-house, which means we don't really run into the problems of like some legacy where it's like, oh, well, we bought this application, which is built on this other thing, which doesn't work with our stuff. And now you're paying for this 5 years later because none of these things talk to each other. So we build everything ourselves, and we build it all to work together. Um, so yeah, this kind of goes back to the point of that I was kind of talking about a minute ago, which is just how much money companies are spending on cloud infrastructure services. So in 2018, the software industry spent $70 billion on things like AWS or other cloud infrastructure services. And so, a lot of money basically gets spent by your software vendors just on running their hardware, which they don't really have to be spending if they could run things themselves. Okay, so for the last little bit of the webinar, I just want to talk about some of the reasons that you can trust the Zoho One platform. So one is reliability. We keep 3 active copies of your data at all times. That is not including backups. So that means like if one of our data centers, which had an active copy of your data, went down, there's still 2 other data centers which also have that information, and they'll still keep going, and you wouldn't even notice an outage. If for some reason all 3 of those were somehow compromised or went out or something, we would still have backups of your data, and backups take longer to like get back. But it's nice to have that insurance policy. Availability. So there are 10 Zoho data centers right now. Most recently, we launched 2 in Australia, and we position these around the world because we know that people often want them in their own country for various reasons. We give you a 99.9% uptime guarantee. So this doesn't include things like scheduled maintenance, but we do notify you in advance whenever we plan something like that. And so that means your information should be available 99.9% of the time. No questions asked, basically. If you want to check up on the status of your Zoho services, you can go to status.zoho.com. We list every Zoho app, how long it's been up, and whether there's any known issues right now if something's gone down. Okay, so scalability. We have 50 million users using Zoho right now. We have over 7,000 employees, and we run our own business using Zoho software. So everyone at Zoho is using Zoho tools. And our largest customer of Zoho Analytics has 900 million rows of data, just to give you a sense. So, if we can run a 7,000 person company using Zoho tools, you can probably run your company using it. And we really have learned a lot about scaling our cloud infrastructure from some of the larger clients that we've worked with. Security. So those data centers I talked about have super intense security. You can actually read about this in a link which is shared in the handout, and I'll show you at the end of the webinar. But we have guards 24/7 every day of the year, video monitoring. Only very, very few people are allowed to actually enter in the data centers. So we have a very restricted set of personnel that are allowed to go in there. We don't disclose the exact locations of where our data centers are. And my favorite thing of all, which is listed on our security page, we have bullet resistant walls. So your data cannot be shot. That's always good to know, I guess, especially if you're on the US data center where we've got guns everywhere. Okay, encryption. So, we don't encrypt everything at Zoho. Most companies do not, but we do encrypt quite a bit. So depending on the applications, some of your data gets encrypted at rest. All of your data gets encrypted in transit, and we use SSL encryption. But in some of our applications, we give you flexibility to choose which fields get encrypted. So for instance, if you're building an application in Creator, you can just tick a little box and any information entered into that field that you've chosen will automatically be encrypted. And another cool thing is that we can encrypt both files and databases at Zoho. So independent audits, we go through third-party independent audits. Here's a few of them. If these names mean anything to you, you can read more about them online. But basically, we have another company who's a disinterested party come in, and they'll show up at our Zoho offices once a year, and they will basically just do a full, thorough check to make sure that we're using all of the best security practices. We also have white hat hackers and bug bounties. So that means, we have paid hackers that work for Zoho around the clock, and their entire job is just to try and break into it. And then once they break in, they show our teams how to fix it or patch any security vulnerabilities that they find. And we have bug bounties. So if some third party, just some hacker who is not paid by Zoho discovers some flaw, they can actually just come onto our bug bounty page and say, hey, I found this flaw, please give me money, and we will give them money in exchange for the information about how to fix it. Privacy. So we have 0 third-party trackers on our website. We're pretty proud of that. We will never sell ads on our site. So some of our tools, like Zoho Notebook, is like a free note-taking application we offer. Even though it's free, we don't pay for it by selling ads. That's nice to know. You own your own data, so when you read the Zoho, legalese and fine print when you're signing up for your applications, it will tell you that. Also, if you're familiar with the GDPR, which is the European Union's very strict privacy regulations that were launched, a year or two ago. I can't even remember at this point. We actually offer GDPR rights to customers everywhere. So even if you live in like the US or in Asia or South America, wherever it is, you're still entitled to the same GDPR rights that Europeans are entitled to, such as the ability to request that we delete all the information we have on you and things like that. Okay, so unified data model, mentioned this already, but we have no acquired applications. Everything is built in-house. We do still have some legacy where, basically we don't build every application on one database. The reason for that is because if we put every Zoho application on one database, it would be hecka slow and you would not want to use it. Eventually, I think technology will evolve in such a way that we will be able to achieve this very long-term vision we've had of doing the one unified database. But right now we're doing this in the places where we can and where it makes sense. So all of the Zoho finance apps are on one database. So if you add in like an expense or an invoice or something in one of them, you don't have to wait for it to sync to the other applications. It's just already there because those applications are all accessing the same database. Because we have this unified data model and we understand the data model of everything we've built, that's why we're able to offer things like ZS Search, where I can look up somebody's email and I can find an insane amount of information, basically their customer record in the CRM, any help tickets they've submitted, any emails they've submitted to me, any chats where I've mentioned this person, any documents like in Zoho Writer or Zoho Show where that email gets mentioned, right? And it doesn't just have to be an email. You can search for whatever it is you're looking for. And this will search a lot of your Zoho applications. So nobody else really offers anything like that. It's because no one else really offers so many applications that were all built by one vendor in-house. This also makes things like Zia Analytics possible. So with Zia Analytics, we give you all those pre-built dashboards, but also you can go into Analytics and just start writing at the top and say, hey, I'm looking for this information. And Zia will try and parse what you're saying, build the chart or report that she thinks that you want to see. And then when you find one that you liked, you can just save it and add it onto one of those dashboards. So that is hecka cool. Okay, so the last little bit of this, how do you know that you've chosen the right platform? You have something that can shapeshift that you can customize, that you know can be flexible and fit your business's needs. You have something that's trustworthy, it's reliable, it's always going to be running, it's always going to be secure, it's always going to scale when you need it to scale. But there's one last part to answering this question of what makes a platform strong. And to explain this, I guess the best analogy is like, when you're buying a house, you want to have a nice house. You want to have the white picket fence and all these things and, 4 strong walls and whatever. But the other part of buying the house is choosing the neighborhood that the house is in, right? You don't want to just have a nice house that's in the middle of nowhere or in some bad area. You also want to make sure that it's hooked up to all the right utilities and it's near all the places that you like to be, and it's in a good neighborhood that has a good school district. And so when you're evaluating vendors for your business software, you don't want to just look at the applications. There's all these other parts that go into kind of entering the world, the ecosystem of some application that you have to consider. And so we call that the neighborhood. And so with Zoho One, we want to make sure that you're in the right neighborhood, that you found the right community. And so we offer you things like the marketplace, where you can install some kind of customization or extension that someone else has built. And you can share or sell your own extensions on the Zoho marketplace, right? So if you want to install a custom app that's really good for a specific type of industry or something, you can look for those on the Zoho marketplace. We also have community meetups, right? So another important part of using all this software is being able to like talk to other people about how they're using it or learn the best ways to get the most out of it. So if you go to community.zoho.com, this is where we list things like our user groups, where you can just get together and meet with other people in your area that are using Zoho, exchange ideas. We also have Zoho-led meetups, which you can find out about on there, where Zoho employees will come out and talk to people. We have online forums if you need help a little bit sooner, right? And then we have links to training from there as well. So sometimes Zoho will do paid trainings for particular things like CRM administration, for example. Another part of the Zoho community is our partner program. So there's a lot of different ways that you can customize and implement Zoho One. It can cover a lot of different business use cases. And when you're new to it, we know that it can be very overwhelming at first, especially if you're just like a small business owner who's getting going. And so you can check out the partner program, find somebody who can help you implement this stuff. You can also go to this link if you're just watching this webinar because you're interested in becoming a partner, and check that out as well. We have a developer community. So this just links to a bunch of resources for all of the development tools. If you want to access something like Zoho Sigma, you can do that from there. Zoho One plan details. So this is just kind of like a useful link where if you want to find out any like limitations amongst all of these different Zoho applications or customization tools, we list them in greater detail on the Zoho One plan details. If you want to learn more about some of the things I talked about, like how we do encryption, our privacy policy, how secure are our data centers, we have human readable pages about all those things. Another great way to learn more is to come to Zoho events. So Zoholics is a really great way to just show up. You usually get like 2 days of sessions where you can talk to Zoho staff, watch sessions on what Zoho software can do, and you can even sign up for one-on-one sessions where you get like a 30-minute slot to talk to a Zoho expert at one of those events. So strongly recommend those. This slide just has some links to some Zoho developer docs. So if you want to see like the documentation on Deluge, or you want to use this little thingy here, which breaks down all of the different Deluge functions, and then gives you an example of how to use it, but also lets you mess with it and test it out in your browser. That's cool. I linked to documentation for the Zia skill builder, and that is all I've got. Okay, you can email us at webinars@zoho1, all one word, .com, and we'll answer them from there. But thank you for attending, and I really appreciate you guys coming out.